Okay, everyone, in the interest of time, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome.
Entonces vamos a empezar. Bienvenidos.
እንኳን ደህና መጣችሁ። ያው ጊዜ ስለሌለን ቶሎ ቶሎ እንጀምራለን ማለት ነው።
And Derek, if we can move to the next slide for interpretation. We do have interpretation available this evening. Down at the bottom of the screen, we have Amharic and Spanish, and we also have sign language that's available.
Ujú. Tenemos interpretación disponible. Tenemos interpretación simultánea en Amharic y en español, y también tenemos interpretación por señales americanas. Por favor, al pie de su pantalla ustedes pueden ver el icono de un globo terrestre y seleccionar ahí el idioma de su preferencia. Gracias.
ያው ዛሬ ትርጓሜ ከፈለጋችሁ እዚህ ታች ላይ የተጻፈው ይታያችኋል። የዓለም ምልክት ክቡ እና ኢንተርፕሬቴሽን ተብሎ ተጽፎበታል። እሱ ላይ ስትነኩት አማርኛ ብቻ የምትሰሙ ከሆነ ወደ አማርኛ ትሄዳላችሁ። ስፓኒሽ ከሆነ ወይ ደግሞ ይሄ በምልክት ደግሞ በእጅ ምናምን ጣት እያደረጉ የሚያደርጉ አሉ፣ ለማይሰሙ ሰዎች ማለት ነው። እና በሶስት አይነት ትርጓሜ ስላለ የሚያስፈልጋችሁን ቋንቋ ያንን የዓለም ምልክት በመንካት መግባት ትችላላችሁ፣ አማርኛ ለመስማት ማለት ነው።
Okay, so the interpretation globe is at the bottom of the screen. And hopefully, if that is something that you need this evening, you're able to move into those rooms now. So welcome, everyone. I'm Mary Beth Manzaranis. I'm the Family Support Services Coordinator for Montgomery County Public Schools. I'm glad to see you this evening. This is a quick peek at our agenda. We'll go through some quick introductions. We actually don't have public comment tonight, but we will provide the link for you. We have a presentation this evening with Officer Reyes and Officer Staunton, and then we'll have some follow-up from last month's meeting, and we'll have some updates that we'll share as well, followed by time with the co-chairs. So I'm not going to read through this whole thing at this point. Let's move to the next slide, please. And I'm going to step back and let our co-chairs introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. I'll go first since we're kind of alphabetical here. My name is Amy Bloom. It's nice to see, as usual, so many of our familiar faces. If you're new, welcome, and please keep coming, even though I know it's a very busy time of the year and we'll actually be wrapping things up this in a couple months, but we're glad everybody's here. Those of you who've been emailing and advocating, please keep it up. I know there's a lot going on in the community at the local and state level, and we're really grateful for that. I feel like most of you already know me. I should have done that first. If you don't know me, I'm Amy Bloom, and I'm coming on 6 years as a SECAC co-chair. We have 2 boys. Our older son is a freshman at BCC, receiving inclusion special ed services. And that's mostly it for me. I also teach ESOL at Montgomery College, which is a really lovely community. And I'm gonna pass it on to Brooke now. Also, if anyone hears any noise, we are very close to the BCC field, and there's a very rowdy lacrosse game or practice right now. So, okay, thank you, everyone.
Hi, I'm Brooke Levy. I'm the one of the parent co-chairs as well for SECAC. For those of you who don't know me, I am also the executive director of the Down Syndrome Network of Montgomery County. And of course, I do have a child in high school in Montgomery County. I've had 2 others go through as well. I'm in Up County, Maryland, and my kids go to Seneca Valley. And that's about it. Amy said a lot about what's going on in terms of the policy and funding for special education, and so much going on in the Department of Education, both federally and here in Maryland. So hopefully maybe we'll get to talk about some of that in the parent section.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I think we have some MCPS leadership. So you all feel free to come off mute and introduce yourselves, please.
Good evening, Jada Langston, Director of Special Education Services. I know Dr. Jones and Dr. Cage and Dr. Jenkins are here.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Margaret Cage, Chief Student Support Officer. Nice to be here with you this evening.
Good
Great.
evening. Dr. Lisa Garrett Jones, Associate Superintendent of Special Education. Happy to be here as well.
Great evening, Dr. Tyree Jenkins, Executive Director of the Division of Specialized Support Services. Great to be here.
I think Dr. Williams is here as well.
Yep. Hi, everyone. Hello again. Dr. Latanya Williams, Acting Supervisor of Special Education Services.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Again, as a reminder to families and caregivers, we do provide time at each of these meetings for public comment. This is the link, or you can scan the QR code. It's an opportunity for you to share with us your thoughts or suggestions or feedback on things that are happening. We do just remind you to share whatever it is that you're concerned about, but to remember not to include personal specific information. And we allow about 3 minutes for that. So if you are interested, please feel free to click that and we'll sign you up for April or May's meeting. Next slide, please. So we are very fortunate tonight to have with us two wonderful people who are going to share some great information from the Montgomery County Police Department. They have a wonderful program and they will be able to speak on it much better than I can. So I will turn it over to the two of you at this point.
I'm Officer Lori Reyes. I've been a police officer for 29 years. I have run the Montgomery County Police Autism, IDD, Alzheimer's and Dementia Unit for 20 years, over 20 years.
Yes.
I am very fortunate to be in this position, and I'm going to turn it over to Amy to let her introduce herself.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is, it's now retired Amy Stoughton. I also was a police officer with Montgomery County. Lori and I went through the academy together, and I have the wonderful opportunity to come back as a retired officer and continue to work with Lori and this special unit, which I love it. So very happy to be here tonight.
I usually am very vocal in making sure people get the help that they need. So that's Amy and I both. Our unit, like I said, it is the longest titled unit in all the land of Montgomery County. However, when folks wanted to make the title shorter, I said I wanted folks that needed information to be able to have the information right there. I didn't want it shorter. So our unit says what we do. The unit name says what we do. Our unit, what we do is provide since 2004, around 2004, we began to see more calls for individuals, specifically autism IDD is what we'll talk about tonight, but more calls for service starting in 2004. We began our unit with tracking because we thought, oh, we're gonna be able to provide tracking and for individuals, but we'll go into that. We've stepped away from that, and you'll know why at the end of this evening, why that's the case for us as a police department. So what do? A lot. We provide training to all of our officers, both the recruits, the newbies coming in, and the officers that are already currently certified as police officers. We provide empowerment, and I would say the empowerment comes through, well, presentations, empowerment of officers, community members, individuals, and those that need to need that information. Follow-up, Amy's going to talk a lot about the follow-up portion of our unit. That is what makes this unit so special. I'll tell you a little sneak peek. We average about 1,000 follow-ups a year, 1,000 follow-ups a year with families. We provide education, just like we're doing tonight, but not only to those that are in the community, those outside of our community that need the education as well. And then our most important piece is when you're telling folks to call 911, you need an educated department. So the response piece embodies all of that. That provides an educated caregiver, an educated community, an educated officer that knows how to respond to calls involving our individuals who have autism or IDD. I will say our most important portion of our unit is, obviously ensuring that our officers are provided the information they need to have a positive, safe interaction with those that they have calls for. We do this by ensuring that we provide that supportive community, an educated community. And I think, Amy will tell you when she shares her portion that when she's calling family members, they're saying what it is that the officers are doing it's really been really positive. If it wasn't the case of something positive, we would correct that. We would see that trend or be able to correct it. Officer training. Folks often ask me, well, where did you get your curriculum from? Who's teaching our officers, or how did you know what to teach them? And I express it this way. In 2004, when I started the unit, I didn't know much myself. So I started to show up in uniform to conferences, meeting with teachers, individuals, caregivers. I started to just ask questions and develop my curriculum based on calls we were seeing. It was the first of its kind curriculum in the nation. And through our follow-up, which I mentioned was so important, we're able to see trends. We're able to see where we could improve as a police department. And we ask the experts, right? We go to individuals that are in the community, obviously boots on the ground, those who are in it, and ask what officers need to know. So our officer training includes recruits, our CIT officers, our ESU, which is our emergency response officers. We work in tandem with our CRT officers. That's our critical response trained officers. Our entire department has received CIT training, which is our mental health training, which, because of our unit, now includes the autism IDD as well, because those are the calls that we're seeing a lot. And it may be surprising to some on this call that we can handle 40 to 60 calls a month for individuals who have autism and IDD. It can be 2 or 3 a day. In the last couple of weeks, we've had probably 20 or so missing at risk calls. And that's probably the lower end of the number. We also address, this is what's important. You can have a training, a curriculum, right? And they say, well, it's done 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And what we say is this: we addressed recent concerns that we're seeing. We explain to our officers the challenges that we're seeing with an increase in age and prevalence in the community, meaning individuals that were 5 and were found wandering in the middle of 200 or Shady Grove Road. Everybody's stopping to help. But now maybe that individual is 25 and the dynamics change. So we make sure that our officers understand that they're going to see an increase in age and prevalence. And how does that change the dynamics of our response and things they may see in the course of their duties? We also talk a lot about changes in our healthcare coverage, right? And all of maybe the cuts that are occurring within the disabilities community. How does that affect law enforcement? Officers need to understand they may see more individuals in the community that were once receiving care, right? All those things are important. Co-occurring conditions. We're seeing a lot more calls for service that are more serious in nature, many times because of co-occurring conditions that kind of exacerbate the initial diagnosis of, say, autism or IDD. We're seeing those increase in more calls of a serious nature. We're addressing all of this, myself and Amy. Next slide. Our community partnerships are invaluable. I mean, I say it all the time. We need everyone to make sure that our folks, individuals who have autism, have IDD, get the resources they need. We partner with all of these listed and then some. It's truly limitless that the resources that we can tap into if we think someone's in need. We have Pathfinders for Autism at the top because we do a lot of outreach in tandem with them. So that's why we have them listed first. But all of the units, all of those, Down Syndrome Network, Montgomery County. And when I tell you these community partnerships, it's not just showing up at an event. It's sending a picture of a young person that we found that we need help identifying. It's truly it's making sure that the family that is in need, that we make sure that they get in touch with the right support that they may need. So all of these community partnerships are very, very valuable to us. And our partnerships are both local and national because we work on legislation, getting the information out globally, nationally, on safety. So it's truly very broad. Next slide. Our events and outreach, I would say Amy and I are probably most proud of the events we have in the community. We've had in the past different ones, community days. We provide 200 or so presentations a year. And then I'm not going to touch on Amy's follow-ups. We'll let her get into that. But it's all part of that message that your police department is here for you. Ask us questions. Tell us your concerns. All of those things that build these relationships that when it comes down to a call for a family member calling 911, they feel confident that the response will be as they desired. Our community outreach initiatives, we, again, kind of limitless as well. We have our mock traffic stop class for our kiddos that are driving and adults that are driving. They're all kiddos to me. I guess as the mother of a 21 and a 24-year-old, they're still my kiddos. Amy, again, is going to touch up on her follow-ups. But I think what's most important is that we are in the community as much as possible. We are in MCPS all the time. I'm in full uniform when I teach to our kiddos from kindergarten all the way up through college age. It's so important for them to see us in uniform and have those interactions with law enforcement. If it's not me, then Amy or another officer, just talking about community safety, interactions with law enforcement, all of those things that our folks are seeing that they need information to be empowered. Amy, I'm putting you on the spot. Why don't you talk a little bit, go through real quick and let them know about our translation of our brochures, but a little bit about wandering and elopement.
So just kind of to tie in, you know, when we get those calls out there for missing kiddos with autism, it doesn't just, we don't find the child and just take them back home. It doesn't stop there. So what I get to do is reach out to the family members after an event occurs. I'll reach out to the families, check on the caregivers, whether that be mom, dad, or grandma, or an actual hired caregiver. And then I check on the individual. You want to make them feel very comfortable because let's face it, when something like this happens and occurs, it's very, very traumatic for the caregivers and loved ones. So we kind of develop a relationship. You know, it doesn't just stop again like that one day. I'm there for them. Our unit's there for them to provide resources. Some of the safety tips that we also provide safety tips for in the home. We talk about some families, if they have someone who's wandering all the time or, you know, several times a week or maybe during the middle of the night. We talk about installing door alarms or cameras, chimes in the doors and windows, and that way it will alert the people that are home or watching the individual or who are in charge of them. It will alert them if someone would try to open a door or window during the day or, God forbid, in the middle of the night. Our brochure, which we'll talk about, it's now translated in Spanish and Amharic. So we also have in that brochure a neighbor letter, which is really important. Those individuals that, again, may have someone who wanders or tends to leave the home a lot, it's a letter that you could actually remove from the brochure and provide to your neighbors if you're comfortable, letting them know that, hey, I have a child who has autism. If you see him or her alone, please call me or call 911. We talk about possibly wearing some kind of identification bracelet. And I'm not talking a GPS right now. I'm talking just a simple bracelet. RoadID.com is a bracelet we recommend. And a lot of runners wear the bracelet. It's just something that provides an emergency contact name or number if someone with autism were to be found and we don't know who they are. We talk about barriers, fences around the home, different kinds of locks. Tracking technologies, again, we'll let Lori get into that a little bit later. We've kind of moved away from that because calling 911 is the most important thing that I am telling our loved ones and our caregivers out there. That is the most important thing, not, trying to find the child yourself or looking for a few minutes, calling 911 right away and letting the 911 call taker letting them know that how long your child may be missing. And again, it's a good relationship we develop, and it lets the people out there know, our community know that, hey, our officers are out there, they're very well trained, they're going to find your children, they're going to get them back home safely. But then, like I said, we have this special relationship that we develop with the family, which is then ongoing, where we're constantly checking in and trying to help provide different resources, because it's always changing as we have learned. We went from 200 back in the day to now over 1,000 follow-ups. So it's really important that we get the education out there to everyone.
So we work in the schools a lot. Yesterday we had a couple of elopements from schools, and we do immediate debrief, but we're in the schools for our kiddos that may be in crisis. Again, hand in hand with our CRT, with our mental health response unit, but it's never a one and done type of follow-up. So next slide. So more about the elopement and wandering. It's really important, like Amy said. Our biggest challenge is that families, since I've run the unit, aren't calling 911 right away for many different reasons. So for that, we say, don't ever search on your own without calling 911. Even if you have tracking device on your child or loved one, call 911 right away. Stay calm and call. Be prepared to provide that full description. Be aware of how you're describing what the independence level of your loved one. Would they get on a bus? Are they able to communicate with officers? All of these things are so important, and they're in our 911 script that's in the brochure that Amy mentioned. Make sure you share. Where would they go? Possible recent interests. Did they say they want to go to McDonald's, or they want to get an ice cream cone? All of these things, share as much information as possible. Here's our other big challenge. Make sure that everyone who cares for your loved one knows to call 911 right away and be completely honest, for lack of a better word, with how long that child has been missing. There's times when you have aunties or grandmas or grandpas that say, oh, well, they just went out the door, but they don't want to get in trouble with their own children, so they maybe embellish as to how long that child has actually been missing. No one's in trouble. We just want to make sure that the information we get is the most accurate. Make sure that someone stays at the house. The first thing officers do when they get that call is they're going to search the house. Because why? Our kiddos, our adults, maybe they're just sleeping underneath some covers, right? And we have it's happened. We have this whole huge search, and the person's been home all the time. So officers will come, they will search your house. They want you to have one person at least stay at the house. Then when the officer responds, you're going to do the same with them. You're going to tell that officer, where you think your child may go. Give all that information, a picture, any other information. One important thing we've noticed, in plain language, share the challenges of your loved one, meaning don't use words like, well, we use the example of ASD, autism spectrum disorder. Don't use that. You know, many officers may not know that. If an individual has, you know, don't use things like, well, they're moderately maybe impacted. Just say exactly what that individual can or cannot do and the challenges they may face. Just be as open with plain language as possible. And I share that because we've had instances where searches have gone out where caregivers, not the parent, but a caregiver has relayed that the individual was far more capable than they actually were. And that can impede our level of searching. So we share, just be as honest as possible. It's so important. So things we do. Again, here's the honest truth. We are a unit really of 2 and maybe a couple more. We don't, because of shortages in staffing and law enforcement right now, keeping people hired, it's very challenging. So right now we have myself as a full-time officer and Amy as a retired individual that's back with us. So things that we try and do, and imagine, we did 1,000 follow-ups last year between Amy and I. Some of the things we offer, home visits. I have a home visit tomorrow with a young man who has some safety concerns in his behavior. Follow up over the phone. I do FaceTimes. We kind of really think outside the box. Safety kit drop-offs. Our safety kit also has a picture in our brochure that you can see. And then, of course, we coordinate with MCPS. We've never lost our communication with being inside of MCPS. Never. Even when SROs were removed, all of that. We are in MCPS because I know our kiddos need us and need to see us. We'll share this. So this is never underestimate. And this young man just had a recent incident this weekend. We'll call this guy Mr. M. We share this because Mr. M has had about 150 wandering incidences since I've known him 15 years. We just had one recently. And I share this because Mr. M is so smart. And he actually put a comforter over his bed pillow and managed to get from Germantown to the Wheaton Glenmont station. And recently he was trying to get on public transportation again. So this is Mr. M, who we worked with forever. And I share that because there's never any officer that's upset, right? We're not upset. We just want to get him home. We understand that he's navigating his level of independence, so we're always here for him. So we kind of share that. Tracking. So we as the Montgomery County Police Department do not provide any tracking. We encourage families that if you're interested in a tracking device, to really do your homework, make sure it's right for you and your family and your individual, your loved one. But never, ever, ever. We just had another email from a mom that said she had not been calling 911. She'd been using the AirTag and tracking her daughter. And her daughter was recently found trying to get into the pond at the Rio. Now, mom was hot on her tail. She hadn't quite called 911 yet. And a great mom, but her idea was that she didn't, at the time previous, didn't need to call 911 because she could track her daughter. And what we say is we never want to track to a tragedy. So make sure that if you purchase a device on your own, that you still call 911 if your loved one's missing right away. Amy, can you touch real quickly on your follow-up?
Yeah, so again, when I started in this unit a couple years back, we probably had, because we didn't have a lot of officers working, maybe 200 a year, and it just increased from 600 in 2023 to 700, and then last year over 1,000. And it's increasing so much. And I just, being able to reach out and talk to these families and help them is so important. And the education, the communication part of it is, it's just always a two-way street. So again, never one and done. I just had a family today where their child is, I shouldn't say child anymore, he's now an adult. And one of the things that he's been perseverating on lately is a blue cup. So when he's wandering from his home, he might be going into other neighbors' homes. And so, of course, I'm trying to educate the family how important it is, to have a talk with his son, and again, maybe get those neighbor letters out, because a young child, which has happened also, a young child walked down the street and walked into their neighbor's unlocked door. That's not as scary as maybe a grown adult opening an unlocked door and walking in the middle of the day or the evening. So again, it's, there are so many facets and parts to our education of families and officers. Right now, what we want to do is train that family to talk to their son. We might do a home visit with that individual, and then also for sure let our officers know what's going on in that home to make sure that they're aware of the situation as well. So
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have Amy doing these follow-ups. Again, it was 200 or so when I was just doing it by myself. I was still doing the home visits, but now we could do 2,000 or 3,000 a year. I mean, there's just so many folks in need. So this is you can scan the QR code. If you just take a picture of your screen, that'll get you to our brochure that is translated in Amharic and Spanish, like Amy had said. Again, we really focus a lot on the presentations to our individuals in schools, a lot in schools, and a lot through kindergarten, all the way through our kiddos that are in college, and making sure we have presentations about what do you do if an officer approaches you? What should you do? Should you self-disclose? Should you listen to what the officer says at that time? Those are conversations that have to be had because they are having interactions with our law enforcement. We just had a young man run from police today, and we weren't quite sure what was happening. So again, that would be a follow-up. If an officer tells you to stay put, to show your hands, to sit down, listen to the officer's commands at that time, and then everything else can be worked out from there. So we've been doing that probably for over 10 years. I knew the importance. I knew how important it was for our officers to be seen inside of schools with our students. And then we have SROs that are doing wonderful work right in tandem with us, responding to these calls for our kids that need us the most. This is a picture of our safety kit. This safety kit is really designed, the t-shirt specifically is designed for those individuals that may be in immediate danger and cannot speak for themselves. So that t-shirt's not designed for someone who's navigating their way to independence, right? It's really for those that, like we've had, or 14 or 20 or however we've had in the last 10 days, that they're immediately at risk. The young lady that's going into the pond at the Rio and citizens are stopping her, that's who should, we encourage to wear that t-shirt. And that's part of our safety kit that we provide. This is our brochure, again, another QR code. So this is our contact information for Amy and I. It's also on the back of the brochures, and you can reach out to us. If you send us an email tonight, we're probably going to get right back to you. We're pretty much like Pavlov's dogs with our emails. We'll answer them very quickly. So that kind of concludes. If you have any questions, we're here for you. And if not, I will conclude, and you can reach out to us anytime.
Thank you so much for that. We do have, we typically get questions from folks about having these resources. And just as a reminder to everybody, we do post the slideshow presentations on the website. So you will have access to all of the QR codes and all of the links that Officer Reyes shared probably as early as tomorrow.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you so much for having us this evening. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. We do as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, for our next part of the presentation, last month we talked a little bit about specially designed instruction, and we had a couple of follow-ups. So I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Williams.
Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Yep, this is just a follow-up. So we did want to clarify a couple of areas. So one, for the specially designed instruction, I know we often use SDI. So just keep in mind, SDI is not a separate special education service. So students who have IEPs and the specially designed instruction, they pretty much go hand in hand. So when you're looking at the SDI, really focus on the instruction. So while we have this IEP, which is an actual document, the specially designed instruction actually brings that document to life. So I know another question was, where can we find SDI in the IEP? You're not going to see SDI specifically in the IEP. SDI is just how we're taking those components of the IEP and for that student's unique needs and what instruction we need to provide to bring the IEP to life. So I did want to highlight a couple of parts of the IEP that will help you kind of move through that. Ms. Perry, I think you're on here. If you could type these subjects, these topics in the chat, that would be helpful. So the first area, families, and if you want to note this, so the instruction and the intervention part. So what interventions would the student need? And then the accommodations is another section of the IEP that will help you identify some SDIs. Oh, okay. And then also the supplementary aids and services, program modifications, and then how are we supporting the personnel who's going to provide these services. So for instance, and those subjects should be in the chat. So for instance, if we had a third grade student, say the student needed a phonics intervention or some kind of reading comprehension intervention. So as far as the SDI, we have that intervention. How are we going to provide instruction to align with that intervention? That's what we need to talk about. How are we going to train the providers? Who is going to be the provider? Will we have it being a special education teacher? Is the special education teacher going to collaborate with the gen ed teacher as well as the paraprofessional? And then we want to go into that frequency. So a lot of times on the services section of the IEP, they talk about when the student is going to get the intervention or how. So is it going to be 30 minutes per day for 5 days a week or 4 days a week to access that intervention? These are all those instructional practices and strategies that's bringing this IEP to life. How are we going to implement it? And then also, what kind of intervention do we need to acquire to deliver the instruction? Okay, and then from that, even with all those parts, I know we talk a lot about progress notes, but we also want to talk about, so when we have the intervention, all of these parts, I want you guys to start asking, okay, so how are we going to monitor the student's progress? So we're implementing all of these things. We're implementing all of these instructional practices. How are we going to bring that IEP actually to life? So outside of the intervention, also the accommodations is a really good section of the IEP to look at. So for those tests and accommodations, does the student need extra time? Do they need text to speech? Those are SDIs that are going to help the student actually access and show growth in their IEP goals. Also, who's going to be providing those accommodations as well. So it's kind of similar as we go through each of these components. The same thing with the supplementary aids. These are when we get really specific as far as the student's unique needs. So in this case, does the student need a graphic organizer? Do they need sentence starters? Dictionary is old, I guess, right now, but something with some kind of visual support to actually access that skill. And then who's going to, again, provide this instruction for the student? Are there any questions at this point? Because I do want to make sure that we're clarifying what SDI is versus it not being a separate IEP service. You guys had some really good questions last time. Okay, I see a hand.
Hi, I just have a question about like where parents can learn about the different types of specially designed instruction and how they can work with the school team to kind of iterate. I mean, you talked about progress monitoring, but wondering like how a parent can become more informed about like the hierarchy, if there is one, about different interventions that can be tried And is there kind of a classification system in terms of the different aspects of SDI? You talked about the different sections, but there are things like in terms of method of instruction, like discrete trial versus natural learning, and then technologies. It's like how do we think about or classify the different types of aspects of SDI?
And you actually did a really good job actually describing SDI. So all of those strategies, the methods of instruction, that's what specially designed instruction is. It's not separate outside of the IEP. The IEP, the document, and the SEIs they're pretty much the same. And what you explained are those instructional practices that's going to help the student actually access that learning. So what you just said was amazing. So say that you're in an IEP meeting. We want you guys to definitely collaborate with the team. So when you get to the services page or you're looking at those special considerations. So if the student needs I'm trying to give an example. If they need visual aids to kind of go through a complex math problem, you can ask the team, okay, that's written down, but how are we actually going to do that in a classroom? So that's where you're taking this IEP document and you want to know the how. Like, how are we going to bring those accommodations or those special considerations, those sub aids to life? And how you started your comment, it was perfect. Did that help?
I guess yes, it did in helping me confirm my understanding of SDI. But I guess I'm trying to learn more about where parents can research the different types of SDI that are available, so that we can become more informed as we participate in the IEP meetings for our students.
Got you. Thank you for that. And would it be helpful if we provided maybe resources around instructional strategies?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
perfect. So
Yeah.
we can provide that.
And I think to your point, Mom, when you talked about discrete trial teaching, that's part of that. So that's specifically what that SDI would be. So when we look at students and we examine, there's a difference between the accommodations and then what SDI would be. So SDI is that specific teaching of skills and strategies. So it would be like an intervention like Orton Gillingham, where they're learning the using phonics, like learning phonics through that structured program. That will be more where the SDI fits in. If we're looking at manipulative, so like blocks, counters, to teach specific concepts, that's where SDI would come in. If we're looking at step-by-step problem solving, that's where SDI comes in. So it's beyond what the IEP talks about when it considers accommodations that students may need. It goes into the actual teaching of those skills so they can be successful on their goals and objectives in their IEPs.
Oh, we have another hand up. Oops. Sharon. I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
Yes, it's LaSharon.
Okay.
Right. So, my questions are, like I was informed that there are other advocates within the school district who can assist parents as well in attending the IEP meetings. Where do we find those resources?
Your question is around advocates being available or the actual SDI resources?
Yeah, the advocates to assist in the SCI resources.
Okay. And I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. And Mary Beth, I don't know if this is something we can address to the side. I see that there. Thank you. But as far as a list of advocates, that's a resource that I guess you guys can connect with our community person on. But as far as specific resources to help families understand specially designed instruction, we are going to provide that because we do want to continue working through this because this is in alignment with the IEP and it goes into the implementation part of it. So as we continue partnering into digging deeper into implementing the IEPs, we want to make sure that you guys have the understanding of it, which is why we're here for a follow-up. And I do think if we need to come back again to kind of go through those instructional strategies, at the next SECAC meeting, we should do that too. And I see some things popping up in the chat. Awesome. So again, we just wanted to circle back and clarify that SDIs are not different from an IEP. They actually go hand in hand. The SDIs, again, are what brings the IEP to life as far as the implementation. Mary Beth, I didn't want to go over the time too much, but let us know how much more time we have.
I think you're okay for a couple minutes. I just let the co-chairs know in an email that, we'll adjust as needed. I think there are a couple of comments in the chat. I'm not sure if you can see them. But one wanted to know if there's a list of accommodations that parents can access. And I think, again, this just speaks to parents wanting information to be, fully informed advocates for their kids.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it would be worth us going through not only strategies? I'm thinking maybe we can even kind of maybe have a blank IEP just to kind of go over some of these components so we can dig a little deeper into the actual formatting of the IEP.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure we have parents who have excellent, they themselves are an excellent resource, but also, as parents are just entering the process, a lot of what we do is just talk about the idea, though, of a menu of options is also not always what's best for our kids, right? We want to make sure that we're matching strategies with need. But a lot of our parents feel like they don't have that information, even know what to ask for. So I think in thinking about specially designed instruction, part of that is, how are we making the IEP work for our kids? And so how do we as a staff say like, oh, okay, well, then we're going to get there by using this particular strategy. So I think that there are certainly things that we can do on the MCPS side. And I know that people have put in some information about advocates as well. So, there are always resources out there, and I'm happy to do something on that as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And I did write down that we'll have a practice session next time where we're actually going through a blank document to kind of dig into the actual formatting.
Sounds great. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, and Rebecca put in there, Parents Place has resources. I definitely have some on my website. And, again, there are organizations out there, including X-Minds, that also offer like parent-to-parent advocacy and support in a really positive way, in thinking about what your child needs. So I think we're going to move on because I believe our next update is from Dr. Cage. Yes. So, Dr. Cage, I'm just going to step back and let you step in. Your slides are in.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for allowing me to share some space and time with you tonight. I definitely want to start by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to each of you for being here, for every SECAC, for every advocacy that you stand in. Your dedication, your advocacy, and your partnerships are truly the backbone of our work. Your voice definitely matters. The time and the energy you invest in advocating for your students, our students, definitely helps to shape our programs and services and hopefully make a meaningful difference in their lives. So once again, thank you for your commitment and being such a vital part of this community. I will like to share with you, take a moment to share some important updates about special education. We've had a lot of myths that have been floating around the community. I am listening and keeping my ear to the ground. Thank you for your emails and sharing your voice through your emails. So I wanted to make sure that I stopped by today to share a few of these updates and hopefully dispel some of the myths that are going forward. So in our work that we do every day, we are governed by a strategic plan that MCPS shared with the community. And as a department, a division in MCPS, we definitely share in that strategic plan and those goals. So I just wanted to share with you tonight the reason or the why behind the work. Our students are are just as important as all of the other students. And I like to make sure that we understand that academic achievement and growth for our students are at the forefront of what we do. We definitely want meaningful secondary and post-secondary outcomes with transitional plans attached. We definitely want to make sure we're ensuring safe, inclusive environments and also make sure that the supports are there for all of our stakeholders, our students, our staff, and our schools as a whole. So in the Division of Specialized Support Services, that's the name of the division where special education is housed now. We have our strategic priorities that are aligned to the vision, mission, and strategic plan for MCPS. And as you can see here, we are working to ensure student performance, correct our disproportionality rates across many of our areas, and expand and support inclusive opportunities for our students. So in some of the updates that we have, some of the questions that we've received as a team centers around the FY 2027 operating budget and what the reorganization is looking like in special education. So I started off with this slide because based off of where we're moving to with the reorganization, we have divided our teams for services and supports into 6 teams. Formerly, we were only 4 teams. So in order to ensure that we are reducing the focus points for our teams and ensuring that we are highlighting and creating a sense of urgency, we have reduced the workloads for our staff by making sure that we have coupled our like programs and services together moving forward so that we can give them the attention that they need. This is an example of what I was just explaining to you. On the left-hand side, you'll see a picture of what our fiscal year 2026 org chart looked like, and how it is moving into FY 27 and ensuring that we are making sure we are paying close attention to the work and ensuring that we're coupling that work together under the respective divisions that you see here. So I want to get down to the nuts and bolts and dispel some of the myths that you've heard. I know some of the things that are out there is that we have substantially cut staff and substantially cut programs. So I wanted to put this into a picture that is easily seen here. So currently, in the second column that you see here, where there's the 4, the 11, the 0, the 0, and the 12, currently we are operating somewhat in this era. However, the supervisors we have here, we started off the year with 11. However, we've run the year with about 5 because a few of them retired, a few of them went out on long-term leave, and a few of them have left to take on other jobs and responsibilities. What you see here is that what we have done is increased our coordinator in for FY 27, where coordinators support in the supervisory role, just like supervisors. We have also increased a team lead. We have also included a proposed behavioral specialist position, which we are requesting 6, where we can exclusively come in and work with our autism students to ensure that we're supporting our schools like never before with behavioral strategies, with making sure that there's professional development and techniques for working with our students. So overall, if you look at the first column and going into the second column, what we have been able to increase into the second column, and I don't know why there's a 0 there because I promise you I did the correct math. And it just didn't transpose into this slide. But what we've been able to do, instead of operating our division with only 12 leaders. As you can see on the other side, if we were to add it up, we are approximately increasing to about 28 leaders. I will answer your questions when I get to the end, but thank you for that question because that is a great question. So what does this look like if I was to say what this looks like for each specific area? So just giving you here some information on special education and related services. We will have a director, a supervisor, and a team leader in our leadership for special education and related services. I gave an example of special education services, which is a broad department in our division. We will have a director, a supervisor, a coordinator, and an instructional specialist. And I've also put here an explanation of what our special education compliance department will somewhat look like: a director, 4 central service level coordinators, and 12 cross-functional team members. So we've received a lot of questions about our special education discrete services and whether or not those services will remain with us moving into FY27, which is school year 26-27. And we have still remaining all of our services, as you can see here, all of our services for early childhood, all of our services for school age and inclusive support, our specialized programs are remaining, and our support and related services are all still intact. We are receiving a lot of questions on autism specifics. There are no changes to our autism services outside of utilizing the supervisor position from autism to be able to have an approach with a leadership team and keep our supervisors from having to work in silos, having to work alone. So we are coming with a full shared decision-making model and a leadership approach for all of our programs. But I wanted to be sure that I shared with you tonight. I don't want you worrying. I don't want you stressing. All of our autism supports are still there. Just in case you haven't received this information yet, our ESY summer school is fully intact. Our superintendent has proposed a 4-day school and work week for this summer. However, our ESY summer school will run from July 7th to August 6th. We will be in school 6 hours per day with our autism students and anyone who qualifies for ESY. That will run from Monday through Thursday. And just a reminder that schools and offices will be closed on Fridays this summer with MCPS. Kashara or Dr. Williams, can you monitor the chat for me? And let's go to questions.
Okay. So one of the questions asked, are behavior specialists considered ABA specialists?
So thank you for that questions. One of the certification criteria for our behavior specialists will be either they are ABA or BCBA certified to be able to assume these roles. Next question.
Okay, next question. Can you provide position descriptions for each of these roles so we can understand their functions?
That would be a lot of descriptions for me to share tonight. I can tell you that supervisors and coordinators are both in the supervisor structure. Depending on the depending on the department that they support is where those support services will lie within their job descriptions. We have, as I shared in the earlier slide, we have 6 departments under the division. So those supervisors and coordinators are in a supervisory role that will support each of those. We also have instructional specialists and behavioral specialists that are also a part. And the roles varies across each department and also the schools and the support that they provide.
Okay. So Dr. Cage, I think you kind of touched on this. The next question asks, are there functional behavior specialists included?
Yes.
Okay. And are there OT services available to school-age students?
Occupational therapists are available from throughout the whole continuum. If you are not sure if your student receives these services, you can reach out to Dr. Jones, Dr. Williams, Ms. Perry, or Dr. Jada Langston. Sorry, Jada Langston, Miss Langston. Everybody is coming a doctor now, so y'all gotta excuse me. And they can provide to you a list of those services that we do provide for our school-age children.
And are LFI, SCB, etc. programs now considered services? I thought they were discrete classrooms where students can receive specific services. I also thought that students could receive their services and not be dependent on their placement.
So historically, here in MCPS, we have utilized discrete programs and discrete services interchangeably, right? Anything that we provide our students above and beyond the IEP are services. These are services that we provide our students to help and ensure that they are receiving FAPE, which is free appropriate public education, and also being provided those extra things so that they can be successful. How will the behavior specialists be distributed? So the behavior specialists that we are proposing to go forward, we are moving, if you are keeping up with the boundary studies, we are moving to a regional model with the boundary studies. We have 6 regions. Last year, we started with a cross-functional team model, and our 6 behavioral specialists will be central service positions. They will not be school-based. So they will be central service, and they will be providing supports to schools, 1 per region.
Okay. Are there any neuroaffirming specialists and leadership positions in special education? Where does neurodiversity fit into MCPS as it differs from ABA?
So the person reading the question is a neurodiversity specialist, Ms. Perry. I am extremely excited to have her as a part of my team right now, and hopefully she will remain here moving forward. Neurodiversity and PDA are 2 topics that have been brought to my attention upon arrival here a year ago. And I can tell you, I've received an insurmountable amount of support with creating trainings for moving into the FY27 school year. We are bringing forward a training for our school principals on April the 14th on neurodiversity and PDA for the first time in MCPS's history that I know of. So I am extremely, extremely excited to be able to explore more of the profiles in our autism services as we move forward into the next couple of years.
All right, last 2 questions. What is considered up and above an IEP? I'm not clear on what you mean. And I'm not clear about the question. Maybe the individual can come up.
It's me, it's Brooke, one of the co-chairs. When you were talking about the services provided by MCPS, I was just confused because it was under specific programs. What I consider discrete programs were under services. And so my question related to that was, I've never considered at least for my child, I see her receiving services wherever she is, whatever classroom she is in, whether it's a learning center, whether it's in the general education setting, or whether it's in whatever setting. And so I hadn't considered an LFI program as a service, but more of a place, because it is a physical classroom. And so in your answer, you said something about, and I'm not quoting you correctly. I may not be quoting you correctly because I'm not exactly sure. You said something about something about, well, you were talking about FAPE, but when you were referring to it, you said considering services that are up and above an IEP. And I wasn't sure what that meant, because I think of the IEP as like the law that has to be, followed.
So an IEP is the law that has to be followed, but if you have had an experience outside of MCPS in Montgomery County, you understand that all of the discrete services that we have created here don't exist everywhere in the world. So that having that understanding and bringing in a perspective where we understand that the IEP covers certain services that students receive. There's no place on an IEP that has an LFI or SEB. That's something that we have created in MCPS. So technically it is a placement, but along with that placement, the original intent that I've been unpacking since I've been here is there was a criteria for students to be placed there, but they are still supposed to receive services above what they're supposed to receive in the IEP so that we can remediate or intervene in whatever behaviors cause that student to be placed in that particular program.
Okay. We do want to thank everybody for all your questions. We know we have a few others, but because of the time, we are going to stop. We will take note of your questions, though, and Maribeth, maybe we can answer those as we go along. But thank you for your questions.
And I just want to say again, thank you for allowing me to be here. This will not be my last time, Miss Brooke, being here, and definitely open to dialogue in the future. Thank you so much, Mary Beth, and all of the other co-chairs.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cage. We appreciate it. Again, I'm Mary Beth Mansaranis. I'm the Family Support Services Coordinator. This slide is just a reminder that, March is Down Syndrome Awareness Month. And so we wanted to make sure that we give a shout out to our number one community partner, which is our Down Syndrome Network of Montgomery County, which Brooke Levy, one of our co-chairs, is the director for. Excellent resource. They have a great website, lots of activities. So families, if you are looking for support in any way, there's opportunities for advocacy. There's also opportunities for events for families. Please make sure that you visit their website. Next slide is, I think, about April being, April is Autism Acceptance Month. So there is a Shine Brighter Together Autism Acceptance event that's happening on April the 18th. I will push that out again. I just wanted to make sure that you all had that information because spring is here, right? And we're all adding things to our calendars. So that's at Wheaton Regional from 11 until 2. And then the next slide is, this is one you really need to put on your calendar, which is our Special Education Family Resource Fair is scheduled for Saturday, May the 9th, from 10 until 1 at Paint Branch High School. We've done this fair in this format for the last 4 years. We'll have community organizations, MCPS staff. We'll have fun activities for the kids. We'll have some workshops. We have food trucks. You do have to pay for those, but they'll be there. We have raffles and so many other things. It's a wonderful time, and it really provides families with community connections that everyone keeps saying they're looking for. So put that on your calendar. And again, you'll hear more about that from me. And then the next piece is about the MSDE Parent Information Survey. So we talk about this every year. And the significance of the survey is twofold, right? The state uses it as a way to evaluate parental support and involvement at the county level for all of the LEAs in Maryland. But at our local level, what we do is we look at the results and we say, okay, of all these questions, this is again where parents are feeling the least supported. So these are the changes that we need to look at as we start to write grants for next year, as we start to think about, what supports we need to put into place, what events we need to hold, what kinds of parent trainings we need, what kinds of workshops. So your response is very beneficial on a local level in terms of how it provides support to all of you, but it's also helpful at a state level for them to see sort of where the breakdowns are, where the needs are, and where things are going well, obviously, as well. But this survey is literally 5 minutes. But it's super helpful. We will have opportunities for you to complete the survey at the resource fair in May, but it's open now. So if you have the time, again, 5 minutes, if you have the time, please go ahead and fill it out. It won't let you just keep redoing it once you put your email in. So you just do it, get it done, and you're good to go. So I know that I saw people throwing things into the comments because we are running late. So Sharon, I don't know if you want me just to direct people to your comments or if you want to come off mute. Sharon is from the City of Rockville Recreation. Gonna give her a second. Okay, well, Sharon in the chat talked about the Shine Brighter event at Wheaton Regional, which I already mentioned. So absolutely, you should come out. There's lots of fun activities there. And then she also put in that they still have some openings for one of their camps. So those of you who are still looking for some activities, go to the City of Rockville's website, their rec department, and see if there's something available for you. And then Brooke has also put in that if you're interested in the Down Syndrome Network, just to reach out directly to her and or to the organization. And I'm sorry, I know I'm sort of rushing now, but we're getting towards the end, and I want to make sure that we at least are able to finish. We do have 2 more SECAC meetings, April 23rd, May 28th. Again, they'll be on Zoom. They'll be at 7 o'clock. We have the link for tonight's meeting. This evaluation or this feedback form is really just, did tonight's objectives sort of meet their intended outcomes, and what would you like to see or hear about in the next 2 meetings, right? We have pretty limited time. So it would be important for us to know where everybody's like sort of landing in terms of towards the end of the year now, what is it that we'd like to hear about, whether that's from MCPS or if it's from outside resources. Yes, I can email you the link. Thanks, Rebecca. Well, I say that, but then I'm going to have to get out of here, go to it. Hold on one sec. And then what's next on there as I'm trying to get to the link?
I think now is also a time where we give a big thanks to MCPS for joining us.
For sure.
If you would like to, start whatever you do to relax, then you can do that. Usually just the parents stay and hang out and have a little informal chat. So
Amy, I just also want to say, Miss Williams, your presentation was really useful. And I felt like your explanation on your topics were very well done. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I look forward to digging deeper into the documents. I'm not letting you guys off the hook with that.
We're here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.